Hey everyone, how are you all doing? I must say these energies today are very strong. Yesterday I had very high vibe day and felt like elated, in flow state, empowered. And with all of that light that comes in, it sets us into the availability to tap into the lower ebbs. So this is what this video is about all today. It's about moving through this period of time and space where the universe is assisting us to see these shadows and the energies coming in, bombarding us from this from this shadow work within, to actually be authentic and speak our truth and to be heard and not to be controlled and not to have a sense of, oh, what if they feel this way or that way, and all of that goes within our own personal constructs of our own relationships and beyond our relationships that are close to us. And how is it that we can then learn through this agenda from the universe to actually get us on track into being all loving, all seeing, all um, all compassionate, all passionate, and all committed on with our own healing journey, is that it's not easy to see the shadow self. So I've been doing quite a few videos lately on the shadow self, so go check that playlist out. It sort of talks about this sort of energetics, but now I want to really deepen into the emotional side of things, and let's see if we get some codes and then there may be at some point towards the video, so stick with me to sort of see what unfolds, because I work very organically with what is being shown to me in this now moment, as it's almost like I'm talking to myself, and in a talk therapy is like standing in front of a mirror. This sort of videos that come through is very much experiencing through my own remembrance and guiding myself through my own journey. So if it resonates with you, stay with me. Consider hitting that like and subscribe at the end of the video, or even now, to sort of show your energetic response to this. So the emotional body sets external of the physical body, but it affects the physical perception of reality. So we have our mind and our body as we see ourselves through our senses, and we speak about this all the time on this channel, is having a greater understanding of, well, what's actually going on with me, rather than just waking up and thinking that you got out the wrong side of the bed. Why is it that sometimes we can be more of an even flow and more times of a dippy downy? And it's okay regardless of what emotional states that we're in, because we must honor that, to work through the shadow of that lower density held within our body. But these cycles and patterns that are within ourselves are being celebrated by the lower ebbs and shone very clearly in front of us, in that our behaviors into allowing other beingnesses or processes in not being able to speak your truth, maybe, or shining a light on maybe something that you say that then could be reflected back at you, and then are you triggered through this? This is all in the mix of this beautiful soup when you're in a lower vibrational state of being. But as you could sort of merge the energy through that perception of looking at it from a higher perspective and a lower 3D perspective of sorts, we can then start to sort of analyze it a little bit, sort of reconcile within our mind with how we can then sort of shift out of it at a quickened pace. And this is what I teach a lot on my calls, is which is that I have the 8 program, which is to balance you. And that process of these protocols and systems and steps within our reality that enables us to deepen into ourselves, but without the collateral damage of going off on one, and then having these sort of like conversations that might go on in our reality with people around us or not, and an internal mechanism of internal turmoil Okay, so I'm seeking a co-creative understanding of this. Is why is it in these retrogrades, in these pullbacks, in all of this, are we experiencing it, and how can we move through it? So 5 minutes in, let's get deep down and dirty with getting into the depths of our cycle and pattern and seeing it for what it is, and then almost belittling it with our higher self to see that childlike charm that we hold within ourselves, to learn through the lessons of, well, what is the best option for us? Do we then just walk away? Do we conform back into our cycles and patterns? Do we consciously communicate, but then is it that other people can hear us? So let us look, let us dive deep into our emotions. So just settle your mind and just feel your body either laying down, just stop what you're doing. Just don't put your earpods in and walk around and do your dip bits. Just stop. Just stop and listen. Just listen to the body. Just listen to the mind, let mind chatter. Listen to the external. And just feel into that empathic response of all about you to see other people's versions of reality, if there's any sense of conflict. And just literally just settle that into your now moment. So just pull it back from past. Just reconsider your actions that you've created a sense of chaos within your situation you might find yourself in right now. But if you're on a high vibe, it's okay. It's just information for when you're on a lower ebb. There is always a deeper cause to the shadow, to the cycle, to the pattern that you are experiencing in the now moment. It is here where we hold the ego-mind turmoil, the sense of destruction, distributing control, pointing fingers, judgment, versus speaking the truth, authenticity, and kindness. It is the ego that conflicts with the back end of the program of the identification of self. It is clear to see in others as they reflect back a sense of conflict within you, that both sit hand in hand, assisting each other with their rise. But when two come into shadow at the same time, it's a little harder to navigate. Let's just step out of that for a moment and consider that within our own experiences. Is that when we have an opposition, it's easier to see that if somebody's on a high vibe, someone's a lower, they then assist each other through the journey as this sort of like balancing act. You sort of balance each other out. But if you're both in this, then there's this. If you're both in this, then there's this. Kianada si makianta isi makiatam. La lakionto o lakiata dasha. Nanama koshuma isi mokushumakiatana. So sometimes within ourselves, we see ourselves on a lower ebb and we honor ourselves and we are authentic. But when we then see outwardly that there are others around us that's got the same type of energy moving through them, there's going to be no resolution. So conscious communication at this point is actually null and void. Because if you actually speak your truth because you want to shine that in that now moment, it's not going to serve you well, because it's going to be 50-50 tug and push, tug and push. So the easiest thing is to step away. But it is not stepping away to run, but it is removing yourself from the situation. That is probably a best option for a sense of short timings until you gather your thoughts, gather your inner light wisdom, where you rise in your vibration, move the energy out of your system. And if the other person is in the lower ebb, then you can then go about your normal balancing act. But then that seems really to the ego from a lower position, you may say, as being, well, I'm not going to compromise this time. And so be it. Don't compromise. Go back with a bit of and it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to be in that sense of honoring the emotional state. Okay. So within your own personal reflection, how does that sit within your reality with your loved ones? And let's take a deep breath in now, just to anchor that in into that deep realization of that imagery within inside of yourself. Okay. Okay, what we're going to do, we're just going to break away from that moment and just consider this within your mind, just to have a little bit of data and detail within it. And just, I really want to sort of get that very clear. It's very simple, but at the same time, it's not. With the energetics of the ebb and flow. So let's see. Let's go into this space. Ah, here we go. Sometimes we have to push to actually get what we want to see. That was interesting. That kept on pushing that button, and I and I wasn't getting the white ball come up. So interesting. Universe is showing me that sometimes you do need to actually speak your truth. Okay, but let's go into the board itself. Again, look. There we go. So we have an individual that stands upon the land, and the vibration in that now moment is of a lower ebb. And there's you that stands by the side, that stands so proudly and knows that inner light wisdom is coming online. But today you have, again, a lower ebb. And within the seesaw of life, you have this sort of cross section that comes up and down. And maybe your thought process is in this motion, and so are theirs. And then there's a meeting of minds. This is the ego conflict. If you have and rise your energy up to this level, then you can assist because you see everything from a clearer palette. And again, if they rise, they will see things from a clearer palette. And in this union of hearts, everything is like love. Everything is rosy. But here is where we need to sit and understand. And this is what we're going to go deeper into. It is that vibrational match. It is that balancing act that help us supersede conflict and a sense of control from others. Okay, ta. Alagianta da basimakiatam. It's almost like going through a door, but it has almost like a plastic coating in front of the door. So you can open the door. You've opened it, you've seen it, you see there's a passageway, but between here and the entrance of the next room, you've got a plastic film. So you've got to break that plastic film to see what it is that you can see within yourself, to enable you to break through that membrane, that remembrance, and that sense of conflict within inside of yourself that enables the conflict to come in the first place. Because if there is a reflection of this other person that's reflecting back at you what's going on in here, and you're not rising up, then what you are enabling yourself to do is to literally embody into the lower body and then let it affect the external, which is the emotional body. So the emotional body sits external. So you're bringing everything into this flow state of the emotional body. And there is where conflicts sit when it is of a lower vibration. Gianadasia bakianto olo kosh makiatam. Dan ant a kosh bakiatan asia kiatam. Sala kui a sula kui a kula kieta. Manabasu bakianta da simakitana a. It is the perception of reality that you feel yourself to be in a sense of victim when there is a conflict and a persona that is of a higher vibration than you. So let's look at that on the board. If you've got this individual that is holding a higher sense of hierarchy or dominance, maybe a sense of a narcissistic behavior, and you're more of an empath, and then the minds meet, the emotional body from this impact will then affect the emotional body, which creates the conflict, because the empath is trying to rise in the vibration by standing forth and saying, I'm not having it anymore. I'm not going to be a victim anymore because my cycle and pattern shows me that I am not speaking my truth. I am not being seen. I'm not being appreciated. And within this, you start to speak your truth through your healing journey. But the mind of this impact, this beautiful soul over here, will then start to create issues inside. Okay, that. So it's almost like there is arrows going at this individual where this absorbs like a sponge the conflict of energy from the stronger energy, the we're going to call it narcissistic behavior, but they're not necessarily narcissist. It's just a case of that there is a strength of mind, an egoic structure that sort of sits there and can literally sort of throw out arrows to an empath. And within this, the empath will then start to, fold a little, go back into a cycle and pattern of behavior, starts tidying up, starts doing things, and okay, I'm so sorry about that, I'm sorry. But it's like, no, empath rise. See within the version of yourself that you can see the low ebb of the other individual. And it may be that you're not able at that moment to actually have a conscious conversation. You might want to take yourself out of the experience. But it's not to run. It's not to say, well, that's it. That's over with then. It's about actually seeing it within yourself and leaving it until you can rise in vibration to then come in with a heightened understanding of what is actually going on with the energetics of the conflict within, and then introduce it externally by talking about it consciously. But you cannot consciously communicate with someone that is running at a low ebb. They will take it and absorb it and see it that you are pointing the fingers back at them, regardless if you're the empath within a sense of victimhood or whether you feel that you're being controlled from the external. Because we all have our own personal stances, our signatures, our behaviors, our patterns. And when there is a stitch work of energy that runs through from one end ebb to another end ebb, then there is the conflict that occurs within the reality. It hits a raw nerve. It senses a sense of depletion in the other, regardless of the standpoint of the ego mind. And within this understanding of the emotional body conflicts to the mind and heart complex, the individual can excessively overgive or excessively walk away. But it is that sense of balance within inside of yourself, is that when you see this emotional state within you, you can then reflect back on yourself about the energetics of the physics and metaphysics within the reality, rather than seeing yourself from an I am presence of I am Nicola in an emotional, lower vibrational, emotional state, and I feel like a victim, and it's poor on me, and it's da 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 da. But it's learning through seeing that trigger within that allows you to start to contemplate within this dynamic of which I've just shown you and we just spoke about. So I do hope you're still with me, because I really want to help you understand that you are the perpetuator of the experience. Your decisions with your words cut deep into somebody else's ebb when they're on that lower flow state. It is about the balance of reality that needs to come into a conscious conversation, rather than balanced at a lower ebb or balanced at a higher ebb. It is that contradictory energy, that duality in a relationship, that enables the relationship to survive. If you're both in conflict of a lower vibration, then the relationship will not. And it's as simple as that, because resentfulness and thoughtfulnesses of resent come in and starts to play the game into mind struggle. Linking back to old relationships, maybe. Oh, that happened there, I'm just going to happen again. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's about consciously being aware of the situation and taking action into it, rather than distorting it with your version of the story that you hold within inside of yourself. You can rise from that and better the situation by being a little bit humble with the ego and settling within the ego. And when everybody's on a higher ebb, then a conscious conversation can be had. But until then, an argument will start, and a sense of flow into that energy. Feel into that emotion, that sense of victim. Just honor it. That sense of not being seen. Sense of taken for granted. All of these things. All of these things create the reality. And it is what we think and what we perceive it to be, is that those lower frequencies are affecting your mind into controlling the situation, that disallows you to consciously communicate when the time is right to consciously communicate. But it takes you it takes you being the conscious observer. It takes you to look at yourself from this perspective, to rise up, so that there is the meeting, there is the balancing, where you can assist for that rise of this individual to immerse and move up out of the system. So when our energy is moving at a higher vibration, we come out of the lower ebb. We see it within the emotional state. We rise. If this individual is holding a stronger ego, it's a lot harder for them to work through their stuff. But if you are conscious and you are the higher being of light leading the way, then it is up to you to sort out the situation. This will bring in cycles and patterns of behavior. This will ground down into being creator of your reality. Now, within my mind's eye and my own personal experience, it makes total sense to me. As I've talked through my internal mechanism of how I'm feeling, bringing in my own codes, seeing the perspective, seeing it from a higher perspective, although be it the energies are intense around me, that I walk through chaos. That I walk through chaos. And I see all about me. That I rise. I am the creator of my universe, of my perception of reality. And if I spark, I spark. If I do not, and I choose to do my inner work first, so I rise firstly, to then communicate when the other person's ready to hear it, then so be it. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Not to catch yourself in the flow of the perpetuated cycle of arguments and blame and shame game, but to see it before you engage in it. And if you start it, maybe draw back into a safe space to reconcile within yourself what it is that you are bringing forward within that state of being, within that state of ego to ego. So just energetically consider that within your relationships, whether they're relationships, whether they are children, parents, co-workers, people around you. See the conflict within the mind, within the ego to ego. If it is you at a lower ebb and they're in a low ebb, there's going to be battle. But rise your vibration and then see it to balance it through. Not compromising, but taking action. And then when all about you is calm, all about you is tidy, then consciously sit down and see the difference within those conscious communications, which will bring in peace into the household, into the workplace, into the collective. It comes from us. Okay? I do hope this helps you through Leo retrograde, deepening into ourselves, seeing the ebb with M. Let us shine our light. Okay. See you all very soon. Make sure you like and subscribe. Send this on to somebody else if you feel that if it will help somebody within their journey of conflict. But it comes to us all. It comes to us all. Check out my details below, nicolalight.com, where I have my 8 program, which will help you bring you into this availability to self-analyze yourself, self-analysis and awareness of your creation. Okay, so take care and I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye now.